Things change, and because of this pressure, we see some concessions given, and government at least pay some lip services to some noble concept like democracy, freedom of press, and things like that. Although in actual sense, hardly anything being materialized. Just the difference is the people consciousness has shifted, and that's more important. Politicians can refuse to change as long as the people are conscious, and politicians will go if they don't follow up, they don't catch up with the trend. And I think that is what we congratulate all of us, whether we are in the communities, we are in NGOs, or we are just a private citizens. Everything that we do, every actions that we assert, and our rights will eventually translate into a small progress of our country. And today is not small progress we are facing, and we are looking into some major change in the country. And I hope eventually the concept of this racialist types of political culture will go up together when we vote out Zainuddin and Ibrahim Ali. We really have to tell the ruling party that there's no point, on one hand you go and sign Hindraf blueprint and say you will respect Indian, you will do everything. On the other hand, you sign a Watika to give it to Zainuddin and Ibrahim Ali for them to represent Barisan Nasional. I mean, we don't like this type of double game anymore, double faces type of game. You can't tell this one community this thing, another community this thing, and you're trying to get support from both sides. You can't. I mean, you have to start today, as what Pakatan is doing now. Our ceramah, we have to speak to all races in front of everybody. You can't tell this community this thing and then the others. So this is the change that we are heading for. In terms of prosperities of this nation, definitely we are very rich. We are being endowed with such a great resources, and even more richer is not just our petrol, gas, and timber, oil palm, etc., but even more great for this nation, which we manifest in Sentul here, is that we are a multiracial, multi-religious, multilingual society. And that is what we make this nation from. Can you imagine one day that this country, if we respect all and allow all this to grow, and this will be the center of the world? This has historically been the center of the world, the crossroad of all civilizations, where you can find everything, all the great civilizations, the traces of all the great civilizations here. If you want to set out a company and you want to market yourself in China, in India, in Indonesia, and in Europe and Australia, you find all your staff who can do and speak and communicate with all the major continents here in Malaysia, because that is where we make ourselves great. You don't find many parts of the world to enjoy such a rich treasure that we all should cherish, rather than treat it as a problem, treating ourselves as some mini Yugoslavia, and always thinking that we're going to hit into problem. It's not. In fact, we will be very strong and rich because of this diversity. And I hope with a new government, we will start to appreciate this reality of life that Malaysia has. And I also hope that people in Sentul can show that. Because if you walk around, within a few yards, you see monuments, you see traces of different cultural heritage that we should all be proud of. And lastly, because of this mutual respect, and I'm quite sure that the fear that the ruling party can always be playing out, the boogeyman of May 13 and racial riot would never happen. Because peace with justice is the best assurance for stability. Stability cannot be enforced by repressions, by draconian laws, by suppressing people to speak out freely and to express freely. It's impossible. The true stabilities will only come where people feel comfortable, when they feel confident, and they respect each other. And government which imply justice, that protect the poor, protect the marginalized, and people who have no reason to destabilize and subvert the social peace. And I think this is what we all work towards. And I just want to correct a little bit. You know, my whole involvement in this thing, not that I wanted to be a member of parliament or a minister. That is the last thing, in fact, I aim for my life. But this is to fulfill my duties as a citizen, and I can play whatever role that I can play to achieve this common goal of all our people. I'm willing to sacrifice a little bit of my privacies and my time. To be a politician is not something that we should all envy. Hopefully, in the new era, politicians is not a shortcut to wealth and to fame, but it is something that we take it seriously as a public officers to serve people, and I think I will try to serve it as short as possible after this so that I can get back to other things in my life. But whatever it is, I think since we are in this juncture of history, we should do our best and give all we can to achieve what we all dream to see. A very great nation where our society can enjoy what we have as diverse, as rich as we can. And I hope this dream won't take too long to fulfill, and we have another 1 week to work hard, and let's see. I'm sure with our hard work, with our sincerities, God will reward us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, YB. Thank you, YB. I just want to add just a little thing about corruption, if I may. When thieves go and rob banks continuously for years and years, and for 56 years, and then they put on their manifesto, transparency in procurement, is that not admission of guilt? Thank you, YB. Can we ask the floor if they want to have any questions? Yes.
So YB, how do you feel coming up with these elections? Do you feel confident?
Well, I'm feeling confident relatively, but no reason to be complacent. But our target now is higher. I'm not just aiming that we win Batu with secure some comfortable majority. Our job is bigger than that. And I think a lot of people who live in Batu also have the ability and power to influence beyond the boundary of our parliament. And I urge voters and residents in Batu area to do our part also, to spread the news. And the aim is to change the government. So, I mean, and the order is taller than just winning by 2 seats. Yeah.
Any other questions? Yes.
People have noticed, government is now giving contracts to cronies. Be it the Duke Highway, be it the new camera system at traffic lights, be it all the parking that is given to certain companies who are well connected. There are many such cases. All this so-called privatization is actually a disguise for giving cronies certain contracts, and these are monopoly contracts. Now, I wonder whether Pakatan Rakyat, if they win in Putrajaya, will they go after these monopoly contracts somehow and maybe charge them a monopoly tax or try and change it? Just like the North-South Highway belongs, we know, to one political party in a disguise. All this is funding their own system, and it's not fair to the public.
Okay, I have circulated this basic Pakatan Rakyat manifesto. If you go online, we have a more detailed description of our policies. One of the key economic policies for Pakatan Rakyat is to break the monopoly. To break the monopolies like rice, car, sugar, and all these things, because those monopoly is not designed to protect the people. It's designed to ensure that there is profits even for the cronies, and there's so long that the monopoly is maintained in a few people's hands. It becomes worse. Last time, maybe it was divided among a few big cronies. Now everything is side mota. You know, all monopoly go to side mota, and that's really destroy our, not only, I don't want to just say about competitiveness, but it destroyed the basic livelihood of the people. And that's definitely something that we will take a firm stand.
Anyone else? Anyone else? Yes.
Maybe another question. Coming up to this election, you know, we've heard a lot about these ghost votes being put in by the ruling party. Not only, I mean, in Selangor, they put a lot of people here and there in Selangor. So, how are we? How is the Pakatan Rakyat tackling these issues?
Okay, I mean, a lot of people are feeling very good that we are making it, but at the same time, they're also concerned with all the frauds and the cheating and things like that. I think this is a tough battle, and we admit that because no government, no power, no regime will just let go of power so easily. They were always trying to find all sorts of hurdles to protect their interests. And that's why we need to work harder. We can't win with 500 votes. We must make sure that we are 2,000 ahead, and maybe at the end, after the counting, you win with 300 or 500. There is always a discrepancy, and that's why we need to work extra hard to create a bigger margin. That's one thing. Secondly, is to ensure that our polling and what's that called, counting agent must be super alert with all that's going on, and we have to look out for many forms of cheating. Thanks to some of the struggle, there was some mechanism put in to reduce. For example, now no longer undi post. Now it will be early voting. There are still some numbers of undi posts that can be abused, but then the postal vote has reduced substantially. Instead, now you have early voting. I'm not sure how early votings will work, but we have to make sure that we monitor it well, because previously we can't supervise the vote, but with early voting, at least we have someone in there to supervise. So there's some improvement. Yes, Selangor is their target. They're sending lots of people. They are shifting a lot of people even from Sabah, Sarawak, mainly the Suluk, coming into Selangor, and they might be votings and things like that. Again, we would have to work very hard, and we hope Selangorian are wise enough to vote the right choice. Lastly, just like any struggle, you know, the fight, the battle for justice is always David versus Goliath. It's always the weak versus the powerful, and that is why inevitably all religions, all epics, we give praise and glorify this struggle that the weak eventually overcome the strongest and the mighty, because the weak stand with justice, with the force of justice, and eventually we can succeed. So I think I would say on one hand we work hard, on the other hand keep our faith strong, and we can make it.
Just will be.
May 13th is a black day for all of us, and it's also going to be a black day for you on the 13th of May. How do you see your hearing on the May the 13th?
This round, no May 13th. I think this round May will be a redemption. We will rehabilitate these bad names, and we no longer be treated with as a black spot of Malaysian history. I think May 2013 will be a day that we liberated from this fear, and I already see it. If you see our ceramah nowadays compared to 1969, our ceramah are all, everybody is there. You have the rocket together with the moon and the eyes, and we are all speaking to each other. I think the fear has much reduced. But since you talk about these numbers, and I would like to give you some interesting point on numerologies, because I don't know, consciously or subconsciously, I don't know whether it's by design of Najib or designed by the divine. On the 20th of April, where Najib choose, when our date of nominations is the birthday of Teo Beng Hock. So, and 6th of May, which is the day after the election, or the day that where the morning where all our results will come out, is the birthday of Atantuya. So our Barisan Nasional is trapped between the two ghosts of Atantuya and Teo Beng Hock. So I hope it is a blessing for us.
So commenting on the statement that you earlier made that people from the Zulu people are coming down from Malaysia, we have also got a report that I think the 3 Air Asia flights will be full on that day.
Yeah, we heard about that.
But are there any substantial proof that they are coming, or it's only a hearsay?
Well, we do not know until they turn out at the polling station, right? So we are now asking our polling agents to be more alert and to watch out. Yeah, there's a question.
Yes, Sharon.
Yeah.
At the moment, the Prime Minister is also the Finance Minister. I believe that this helps corruption. He's also Minister for Women, and therefore doesn't have much time to promote the interests of women in the country. Are you sure maybe Pakistan make it so Gujarat that the ministers will have enough time to pick each department, and that it won't have any conflict?
Yeah. I think this, for the last 3 Prime Minister, we have started a very bad trend where the budget for the Prime Minister department occupied almost 70% of the national budget. And the Prime Minister is doing the job for almost every portfolios. You see, Najib's not only women ministers, he is also the finance minister. He's also taking over the transport because Spark has taken over the jobs of the transport ministry. He is controlling Suhakam. He has this what you call the this Pemandu, which oversee every government department, and almost everything is in the hand of the Prime Minister. So the rest of the ministries are almost playing a very secondary supporting role, and Pakatan Rakyat will break that away. Prime Minister department should downsize to its 1/3 of its size. It shouldn't be a super ministry to control everything, and that's where the source of corruption, and that's where one or two person who is close to the Prime Minister can make decision for everything. And we also make a pledge that the Prime Minister should never hold the position as a finance minister, because finance minister is a trade in itself. It is very heavy job, and you shouldn't trying to do both. And Prime Minister has to go beyond just looking into the dollar and cents. He has to look into the well-being of the country, and we cannot be just bogged down into doing the finance minister jobs. So that is very clear. And we also pledge that Prime Minister should not go beyond 2 terms, right? Everyone have a good 10 years to contribute. I think that's probably enough. If you have done a good job, let's keep it in the sweet memory of the people. If after 10 years you still can't get your job right, I think you better leave it to someone else to do. So I think that should be the case.
Any further questions?
Yes. I got one more question. At least from the newspapers I read, PAS is trying to rock the boat, or are they in Pakatan? Because they keep talking about Sharia law. The only person who is opposing them is Karpal Singh. What is Pakatan's view on that? Because that to me is the biggest fear.
Okay. I think these issues of hudud, issues of Islamic law always come when the elections come, and I don't deny that PAS maintain their positions, that their struggle is to fight for Islamic states, and they want to see Islamic law being implemented. However, it is very clear right from beginning, from 2008 onwards, we have a clear agreement in Pakatan. We do not have the Sharia, the hudud as part of our agenda. That's very clear. And PAS also agree with it. And I think there is always confusions where the media deliberately create, is that when they ask PAS as a party, are you still committed to hudud? PAS ulama will have to say yes. They say yes, they are committed to it, and they will not compromise just because they are in coalition with others. As PAS in Pakatan Rakyat, it is very clear Pakatan consensus that we will never implement. So that's very clear. And Mahathir actually answered it well. He said that in the reality of Malaysia, in Malaysian Parliament, there will never be a day that is possible for PAS to have the 2/3 majority to implement hudud. So that's why I think this is the issues that being played out by MCA all the time, just to divert the real issues, which is corruption. I think the current leaderships of PAS are practical and modern oriented. People like Khalid Samad, people like Mak Sabu and all these things, and they are articulating their agenda with a very different language now.
Yes. Tian Chua, let's say Pakatan wins, and then what is it? Yeah. I mean, right now we'll just say, let's say that. Is it possible that we will upgrade the civil service?
I think the whole professionalizations and reforms of civil service is a must. I think we are we are overly behind already, and our civil service become too cumbersome, huge and inefficient, and we need to change it. But I won't dare to say that it will be an overnight thing. It takes process to change. I also want to caution. I think it's easy for us to promise that there will be a clean civil service, but it takes maybe longer process to ensure that there will be efficient civil service. That because for decades the culture of the working discipline has already slowly sliding away. So it takes us a while to rebuild that back. I think that will happen first of all when our civil service is clean, when they are no longer tainted with corruption. Secondly, when we start to reward people based on merit, and then the third issues about efficiency will come. So I think that process is something that Pakatan Rakyat is realistic enough, and we are practical enough to engage on it, and hopefully we eventually will see first-class civil service being reinstated in Malaysia.
Yes, Kalbi. I think we can have one or two more questions. Maybe YB is quite busy man.
Okay, last but not least, we wish you all the best. We hope Pakatan comes into the picture, change the government. But lastly, I would like to say, I hope when they come in, give some room to our Sikh fellow friends here also to move up the ladder so that we can contribute to the betterment of Pakatan.
Yeah.
Thank you.
YB, Tian Singh is the president of our Gurdwara, Sentul Gurdwara.
In March 08, when after that you came to our Gurdwara, you did tell me that Gurdwara, I cannot give you anything, but I can talk for you. Will that honesty will be there after this election?
Yeah. Okay. Any other question, and I answer together.
Okay, I think maybe that's the last. Okay.
One last question. Maybe congratulate you for standing in Batu, and I hope that you will win in landslide victory. Okay? This one I just want to say, job opportunities. For the past 4 years, Selangor has been governing, Selangor has been governing Pakatan. What I see, Majlis Perbadanan Selayar, the workers, they have been employing so many workers there. Sorry to say, because I'm not very sure of it, but I see that Indians are very, very little there. They're not fair. So when Pakatan takes over the government, I hope please pick the right person where you can do a lot of things, right? And see that the Indians are lifted up, particularly the job opportunities.
I think definitely equal opportunity for jobs is something that we have to instead, so that every communities will be given a fair chance. This is similar to just now when we talk about Indian, we talk about Sikh. Although we are minorities, but minority doesn't mean that you have disadvantage in participating in jobs and contributing to the country. And a lot of people keep talking about this numbers game, but it doesn't make sense when we see our children migrating to Australia, migrating to Canada, whether they are Chinese or they are Indian. They go to Australia, they are dropping from 10% minority into 0.5%. If they're Chinese, they are dropping for 28% of the population, dropping to maybe 3%. But they have no problem of living there because you have a fair opportunity for everybody. Because we are not talking about numbers. We are not talking about we must have 40% to fight with those 50% or we're not talking about that. If you give fairness, it doesn't matter we drop to 1% or 10% or 2%. That's no longer issues. The issues is people who have sufficient skill, they have good qualification, they are given the opportunities. I think that's where we should strive towards that type of society.
Can we get rid of the quota system?
Yeah, that's why I think we are not interested in maintaining the quota. We want to transform this quota system into merit-based system, and where people are given the opportunity. And help should be given to the poor and disadvantaged because they are poor and disadvantaged, not because there are certain ethnic groups or there are certain religion. We have to change that formula into something that where everybody get opportunity to participate. And to answer my last questions, and I hope as a politician as a person who has root in NGO activism, and I will hope that I will continue to maintain an honest, outlook, and I will continue to be able to be very approachable, and I will also hope that the community that support me, those voters, will continue to treat me as friends, as equal, and come to guide me when if I make any mistakes or I have done anything which caused misunderstanding, or I have neglected something. So I hope my voters to not treat me as a dato or as a YB, but as a friends, as well as you as my teachers, to continue to guide me, to allow me to stay as a honest wakil rakyat that people will remember. Thank you very much.
YB, I don't know whether you realize what you have just said. You have committed a lot. I hope you will live up to your promise. Okay? It's going to be quite difficult for him now. You have just said it now. Okay, we all have witnessed. Let me say thank you, YB, for sharing these moments with us. We have learned a lot about Pakatan today, and we wish success. And we hope the rocket lands in the sky. Thank you, YB. Stop! Testi.